The fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets in the sterile waiting room, casting harsh shadows on the faded linoleum floor. Howard gripped the armrests of the plastic chair until his knuckles whitened, his heart slamming against his ribs as if it might burst free and run for the hills. "You're not my son anymore," his father had growled that morning, voice like gravel under truck tires, shoving him into the car with a force that still echoed in his bones. It was the summer of 2005, and at 17, Howard Jenkins thought he'd known heartbreak, crushing on the quarterback in gym class, stealing glances at the curve of his jaw under the bleachers, the way his laugh cut through the humid Alabama air like a promise. But nothing prepared him for the betrayal that unfolded in their split-level ranch house in Mobile, where the scent of magnolias clashed with the stale smoke of his father's Marlboros. They'd found the letters, tucked under his mattress like guilty secrets, scribbled notes to a boy named Tyler from summer camp, words too tender for the world his father had built. Reverend Elias Jenkins, pillar of the First Baptist Church, had always preached fire and brimstone from his pulpit, his sermons a thunderclap against sin. But that afternoon, as he burst into Howard's room, Bible in one hand and the crumpled papers in the other, the fire turned personal. "This abomination ends today," he'd spat, eyes wild with a mix of rage and something deeper, fear, maybe, that his perfect son was slipping through sanctified fingers. Howard's pleas fell on deaf ears. His mother's tears, silent and sidelined in the kitchen doorway, offered no shield. By evening, they were on the road, the old Ford pickup eating up miles toward a Christian counseling center in rural Mississippi, a place whispered about in church basements as a miracle worker for wayward souls. Howard begged, screamed, pounded the dashboard until his fists bruised. "Dad, please, I'm still me." But Elias's jaw set like concrete, radio tuned to gospel hymns that mocked the boy's unraveling world. The center loomed at the end of a gravel drive, a squat brick building ringed by chain-link fence, its sign reading "Pathway to Purity" in peeling gold letters. Nurses in starched whites met them at the door, their smiles as thin as communion wafers. Howard's father signed the papers with a flourish, his hand steady while his son's world tilted. "It's for your own good, boy. God don't make mistakes, but the devil sure sneaks in." They stripped him of everything. Phone, shoelaces, the silver chain from his grandmother that whispered of better days. Locked in a room with cinder-block walls and a single cot, Howard curled into himself, sobs racking his frame until exhaustion claimed him. Dreams came jagged, Tyler's face morphing into his father's, accusations flying like shrapnel. He woke to the clang of a tray sliding under the door, oatmeal and a plastic cup of water, the first meal in his new prison. Days blurred into a regimented hell. Mornings began with affirmation circles, where boys like him, scared kids from fractured homes, sat cross-legged on the floor, reciting verses about fleeing fornication. "I am a vessel for the Lord," they'd chant, voices trembling, while counselors in ill-fitting suits nodded approvingly. Howard's throat burned with the lies. Each word felt like swallowing glass. Afternoons were worse. Therapy sessions in a dim office, where Dr. Harlan, a man with a comb-over and eyes like dead fish, wielded his clipboard like a weapon. "Tell me about these urges, Howard." He'd probe, leaning in too close, breath sour with coffee. "Where do they come from?" "A weakness in your spirit." Electric aversion therapy followed, wires strapped to his arms, hooked to a machine that zapped pain through his nerves while slides of men embracing flickered on a screen. Associate the sin with suffering, Dar. Harlan intoned, as Howard bit his lip bloody to stifle screams. Nights were for isolation, the silence broken only by muffled cries from adjacent rooms. That's where he first heard Eugene. A soft humming drifted through the vent, some old folk tune, Shenandoah, carried on a voice smooth as river stones. Howard pressed his ear to the grate, the melody a lifeline in the dark. "Who's there?" he whispered one night, heart pounding. A pause. Then Eugene. "Room 3. "You, Howard. They got me last week." Another beat. "Me too. Second time around. Hang in, kid. It ends." Somehow, their voices became a ritual, threading through the vents like underground rivers. Eugene was 19, from a steel town in Pennsylvania, shipped south by parents who'd rather fix him than face the neighbor's stares. He'd been through the program before, relapsed in their eyes after a furtive kiss behind a diner. His stories painted escape routes, the weak spot in the fence, the night guard's predictable rounds. But more than plots, Eugene offered solace. Tales of jazz clubs in New Orleans he'd sneaked into, dreams of a life where love wasn't a crime. "You're stronger than this place, Howard," he'd murmur as Lights Out echoed. "Remember that. We're not broken. They're just blind." Howard clung to those words like a rosary, fingering the invisible beads in the dark. But strength frayed under the onslaught. One session, Dr. Harlan pushed too far, forcing Howard to recount his first crush in excruciating detail, then shocking him until he retched. Bruised and shaking, he stumbled back to his room, collapsing against the door. Eugene's voice came immediately. "Breathe, man. In and out. You're still here." That night, Howard broke. "I can't do this, Gene. I just want to go home." "You are home," Eugene replied softly. "Wherever you let yourself be you." By week's end, the toll showed, Howard's eyes hollowed, his once bright smile a ghost. His father visited once, standing rigid in the lobby like a stranger. "Progress?" he asked the receptionist, avoiding his son's gaze. "Repentance is a journey, Reverend," she replied. Elias nodded, slipping a check across the counter, and left without a word. Howard watched the truck's taillights fade through the barred window, a chasm widening between father and son. In that moment, something calcified in his chest. Not hate, but a quiet resolve. He would survive this. For Eugene's voice in the vents. For the boy he'd been before the wires and the whips of scripture. But survival demanded cunning. The next day, during yard time, a pathetic square of crabgrass patrolled by orderlies, Howard caught his first glimpse of Eugene. Tall and lean, with tousled dark hair and a jaw shadowed by stubble, he leaned against the fence, pretending to study the clouds. Their eyes met across the grass, a spark jumping the distance. Eugene's lips quirked in a half-smile, secret and knowing. "Over here," he mouthed, nodding toward the shadowed corner. Howard drifted closer, pulse racing. Close, Eugene smelled of institutional soap and something wilder, defiance. "We gotta get out," Eugene whispered, voice low. Together, the plan hatched in fragments. Feign compliance to earn privileges. Slip sedatives from the med cart. Eugene had a knack for sleight of hand. Scale the fence under moonless sky. Risky as hell, but the alternative was a lifetime bent into someone else's shape. As days ticked by, their vent talks deepened. Eugene confessed his own ghosts, a brother lost to AIDS in the 90s, parents who prayed harder than they loved. Howard shared dreams of California, waves crashing like freedom's applause. Laughter crept in, rare and precious, binding them tighter than any chain. Then, the betrayal struck like lightning. During a group prayer, an orderly caught Howard's lingering glance at Eugene, reported it as relapse encouragement. Dr. Harlan separated them that night, slamming Howard into solitary, a padded cell reeking of bleach and despair. No vents, no voice, just the echo of his own ragged breaths. Eugene's absence was a void, swallowing light. Howard scratched initials into the foam walls. H+E, a talisman against madness. Days stretched, he lost track. When they dragged him out, pale and feral, Eugene was gone, transferred, they said, to a more intensive facility upstate. Devastated, Howard's fire dimmed. He played the game, nodded at sermons, flinched at shocks, let the words "I'm healed" spill like bile. 6 months later, they released him, a hollow shell stamped "cured." His father picked him up, clapped his shoulder like a victory. "Proud of you, son." Fresh start. But the drive home was silent, Mobile's bayous blurring past like forgotten promises. Howard stared at the dashboard, Eugene's face superimposed on the dials. Fresh start? No. This was just intermission. Back in Alabama, life resumed its scripted rhythm. Church on Sundays, community college for business, dates with girls from youth group that tasted like ash. He buried the ache, built walls higher than the center's fence. Nights, though, the dreams returned, Eugene's hum, the what-ifs clawing at his sleep. Years slipped by in quiet erosion. At 25, Howard landed a job at a real estate firm in Birmingham, trading sermons for spreadsheets. His father rose in church ranks, a deacon now, preaching against the gay agenda with renewed zeal. Howard attended when required, smile fixed, heart a distant drum. Then, fate or glitch reconnected them. A client meeting at a downtown coffee shop. Eugene, older but unmistakable, dark hair threaded with silver, eyes still holding that river-deep calm. He was a social worker now, advocating for LGBTQ youth in the city. Their hands brushed over a latte, and the world tilted back. "Howard," Eugene breathed, voice cracking like old vinyl. "Gene," it was a prayer, answered. They talked for hours, the cafe emptying around them. Eugene had escaped the upstate hellhole through a sympathetic nurse, hitchhiked to Atlanta, pieced together a life from odd jobs and sheer will. "Never stopped thinking about you," he admitted, fingers tracing the table's grain. "Wondered if you made it." "Barely." Howard's throat tightened. "But here we are." That night, over cheap wine in Eugene's cramped apartment overlooking the railroad tracks, walls crumbled. Kisses came tentative, then fierce, years of pent-up longing unleashed in whispers and touches. Eugene's hands mapped Howard's scars, literal and not, murmuring, "You're beautiful." Always were. Love bloomed fragile, then fierce, in stolen weekends and late-night drives to the Gulf. Eugene taught him to dance in the kitchen to Coltrane records, to laugh at the absurdity of survival. Howard, in turn, showed him vulnerability, nights curled on the couch, sharing the center's ghosts until dawn. But shadows lingered. Elias noticed the changes. Howard's softer edges, the unexplained absences. Snooping through his phone one Sunday, old habits die hard, he found texts, Photos, the irrefutable proof. Confrontation exploded in the garage, tools clattering like accusations. "You're doing it again," Elias roared, face purple. "After everything I sacrificed." "Sacrificed," Howard shot back, voice steady for the first time. "You tortured me, that, for loving wrong." Elias's fist connected with the workbench, splintering wood. "I saved you. From hell." "No. You damned me." Howard walked out, door slamming like a gavel. The breakup with his past ignited a reckoning. With Eugene's quiet support, nights of "you've got this" etched into his skin, Howard filed the suit. Not for money, but justice, emotional distress, false imprisonment, the scars of conversion therapy laid bare in affidavits and psych evals. The courtroom in Montgomery hummed with tension months later, summer heat pressing against the windows like an uninvited guest. Howard stood at the plaintiff's table, suit crisp, hands steady. Eugene sat in the gallery, thumb up subtle but electric. Across the aisle, Elias fidgeted, lawyer murmuring placations, his once-iron facade cracked. Opening arguments flew like arrows. The defense painting Elias as a loving father, tough love in a God-fearing home. The prosecution countered with Howard's testimony. Raw, unflinching, the zaps, the isolation, the vent-whispered hopes that kept him sane. "And your father?" the lawyer asked gently. Howard met Elias's eyes, saw the flicker, regret, defiance. He thought he was right. But he broke his son to prove it. Witnesses piled on. The sympathetic nurse from the center, now retired, decrying the barbaric practices. A psychologist detailing the lifelong PTSD. Eugene took the stand last, voice even as he recounted their bond. The vents as a metaphor for resilience. Cross-examination turned brutal. "Mr. Riley," the defense attorney sneered at Eugene, "weren't you just another delinquent, corrupting the plaintiff?" Eugene leaned forward. "I steal." "No, sir. I was his friend. In a place designed to strip us of humanity. That's what saved us." The jury deliberated 2 days, the wait a slow burn. Howard paced hotel rooms with Eugene, making love like it was armor, tender, urgent, a reclamation of bodies and souls. Verdict came on a Thursday, liable. Damages modest. But the injunction spoke volumes. Elias barred from contact. The center's records subpoenaed for broader suits. Flashbulbs popped as Howard exited. Eugene's hand in his, a shield against the storm. Reporters swarmed. "How does it feel, Mr. Jenkins?" "Like breathing," Howard said, voice carrying over the din. Finally, Elias lingered on the steps, alone, a ghost of the man who'd dragged him south. Their eyes met one last time. No words, just a nod. Not forgiveness, not yet. But a door cracked, light seeping through. In the weeks following the verdict, Birmingham's skyline seemed sharper, the humid air laced with possibility rather than dread. Howard and Eugene holed up in their new apartment, a third-floor walk-up in the historic district, with creaky hardwood and windows that caught the sunset like spilled gold. It was theirs, paid for with Howard's commission checks and Eugene's grant-funded salary, a sanctuary stitched from thrift store finds and quiet dreams. Mornings unfolded lazy, coffee brewing while Eugene sketched advocacy posters at the kitchen table, his pencil scratching visions of rainbows over southern steeples. Howard watched from the counter, marveling at the ease of it, the way Eugene's brow furrowed in concentration, the soft hum of "ain't misbehavin'" under his breath. "You're staring," Eugene teased one dawn, not looking up. "Guilty," Howard replied, sliding behind him to kiss the nape of his neck. "Can't help it." Love, in its fullness, was a revelation. No more vents or stolen glances, just bodies entwined without shame, laughter echoing off walls that held no ears. They cooked gumbo from Eugene's Pennsylvania-rooted recipes, spicy and soulful, debating toppings over candlelight, okra or no. Walks along the Ensley rail yard turned confessional, hands linked against the world's old habits. But victory's afterglow couldn't erase the undercurrents. Nightmares crept back, uninvited, the zap of current, Dr. Harlan's leer, Elias's gravel voice. Howard woke sweating, Eugene's arms a anchor pulling him back. "It's over," he'd murmur, tracing Howard's pulse. "You're free." "Am I?" Howard whispered once, moon pale on the sheets. "Feels like I'm still running." Eugene propped on an elbow. "I serious." "Then we run together. Build something they can't touch." That something took shape slowly. Howard dove into work, closing deals on fixer-uppers in the suburbs, channeling restlessness into blueprints. Eugene's job at the youth center expanded. Group sessions for queer kids, safe spaces where stories like theirs weren't sins but survival tales. They volunteered side by side, Howard facilitating legal aid workshops, Eugene leading art therapy, crayons scribbling identities unashamed. Friends emerged from the fringes, a lesbian couple from the firm, drag queens from Eugene's bingo nights, a trans barista who slipped them free lattes with winks. Dinners grew rowdy, wine flowing, toasts to the Sue Happy Badass and his silver-tongued beau. Laughter healed in layers, stitching wounds Howard hadn't named. Yet conflict simmered, inevitable as thunderheads over the gulf. Elias's silence broke first with a letter, postmarked from Mobile, delivered on a rainy Tuesday. Howard found it in the mailbox, envelope crisp as accusation. Eugene hovered as he slid it open, words spilling like bile. "Son, the judge may have ruled, but God sees the truth. This lifestyle will devour you. Come home. Let me help fix what the world broke. Your mother prays nightly. Don't throw eternity away." Dad. Howard's hands shook, crumpling the paper. "He doesn't get it. After everything." Eugene pulled him close, rain pattering like distant applause. "He never will. But you don't have to answer." The letter ignited a spark. Not rage, but purpose. Howard penned no reply. Instead, he channeled it into a blog, anonymous at first, chronicling the center's horrors. Posts went viral in queer corners of the internet, shares rippling to news outlets. Survivors Speak became a hashtag, Eugene's advocacy group amplifying voices long muted. Birmingham buzzed with it. Protests at the state capitol, petitions circling like vultures. Howard's face hit local papers, not as victim, but victor beside Eugene's steady profile. Pride swelled, but so did the backlash, hate mail in their box. Slurs spray-painted on the center's door, anonymous calls hissing faggots into the line. One night, it escalated. Coming home from a rally, tires slashed, apartment door ajar. Inside, chaos, drawers rifled, Eugene's sketches shredded, Howard's laptop smashed. No theft, just violation. They stood amid the wreckage, hearts pounding. Church folks, Eugene guessed, voice tight. Or Dad's flock, Howard's stomach twisted. Betrayal's echo, fresh as the center's vents. Police came, dusted for prints, none. Filed reports, routine. But sleep fled. They crashed at a friend's, barricading emotions with bourbon and bad movies. Dawn brought resolve. Install cameras, change locks, press charges if caught. More than that, it forged steel in their bond. Eugene's hand in Howard's during statements, a silent vow. As summer faded to fall, leaves turning crimson like old blood, opportunity knocked. A national org offered Howard a fellowship, lead conversion therapy reform efforts in D.C. 6 months, policy work, a chance to scale justice. Eugene's eyes lit. Go. Change the game. And you, I'll hold the fort. Weekend visits, dirty phone calls, grin wicked, masking the ache. Packing was bittersweet. Boxes of books, records, the silver chain reclaimed from youth. Last night in Birmingham, they made love slow and deliberate, bodies mapping futures uncertain. This isn't goodbye, Eugene whispered, forehead to Howard's. It's see you in the revolution, D.C. Hit like a fever dream, marble halls, power suits, the Potomac gleaming under steel skies. Howard thrived in briefings, testimony before committees, his southern drawl cutting through legalese like a hot knife. Allies multiplied, senators with quiet nods, activists with firebrand speeches. But loneliness gnawed. Video calls with Eugene sustained, pixels no substitute for touch. Backlash followed, sharper here. Protests outside hearings, picketers with signs Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. One evening, leaving the Hill, a man in a trench coat cornered him. Eugene's face flashed. Then horror. It was Tommy, his father's deacon, fist raised. You ruined him, Tommy snarled, breath whiskey hot. Reverend Zachel, Howard sidestepped, voice calm. He ruined himself. Chose hate over love. The swing missed, security hauled Tommy away. But the bruise lingered, psychic more than physical. Howard called Eugene that night, voice cracking over the line. Miss you. This fight. It's endless. Miss you more, Eugene replied, static soft. But you're doing it. For us. For those vents. Thanksgiving loomed. Howard flew south, heart full. Eugene met him at the gate, kiss fierce amid the bustle. Home was a borrowed cabin in the Smokies, rented for escape, crackling fire, cider steaming, no cell service to intrude. There, under star-pricked skies, they dreamed aloud. Eugene sketched a future, coastal house in Oregon, maybe kids via surrogacy, a life woven from their scars. Howard traced constellations, naming them after battles won. Cassiopeia, the survivor queen. Intimacy deepened, not just flesh but soul. Eugene's vulnerability about his brother's death. Howard's buried shame from the center. Tears came, cathartic, sealing them tighter. Return to D.C. Brought climax unbidden. A leaked email chain, Elias, coordinating with church allies to lobby against Howard's bill, calling him deluded prodigal. Betrayal, public now, splashed across headlines. Father versus son, holy war in Congress. Rage boiled, but Eugene's call tempered it. Use it. Turn poison to power. Howard did. Press conference. Flanked by Eugene, flown up for solidarity. He laid it bare. My father loves me in his way. But his way nearly killed me. This bill isn't revenge. It's redemption. For every kid whispering through vents, clinging to hope, the speech went viral, tipping votes. Bill passed narrowly, mandating bans on conversion therapy nationwide. Cheers erupted. Howard and Eugene embraced on the Capitol steps, cameras flashing like fireworks. But victories cost surface subtle. Elias called, first in years, voicemail trembling, saw the news. Proud. And sorry. Can we talk? Howard deleted it, hand shaking. Forgiveness? A bridge too far. Or first step. Winter gripped D.C. Like a grudge. Snow blanketing the mall in reluctant white. Howard's fellowship extended. A whirlwind of amendments and awareness tours. His face now familiar in advocacy circles. Eugene joined full-time, transferring to a Beltway nonprofit, their lives syncing like gears long misaligned. The apartment overlooking DuPont Circle thrummed with them. Jazz on the turntable, takeout from Ethiopian spots, mornings tangled in flannel sheets. Romance flourished in the mundane. Eugene's notes tucked in lunch bags, "You're my North Star." Howard's surprise tickets to the Kennedy Center, swaying to Billie Holiday under chandeliers. Intimacy evolved, playful edges softening to profound, explorations slow and reverent, bodies as maps of endurance. "I love how you fit," Eugene murmured once, post-love haze, fingers lacing Howard's. "Like puzzle pieces from hell," Howard joked, but truth lingered. They were whole, mended. Yet the lawsuit's ripples lapped at peace. Media hounds sniffed for drama. A 60-minute segment loomed, promising national scar tissue. Prep sessions with Eugene turned therapy. What if Dad watches? What then? Then he sees the man he couldn't break. Eugene's grip firm. "Your call." The air date hit like a storm. They watched in a darkened living room, wine untouched, Howard's testimony flickering large vents. Zaps, the hollow release. Cuts to Elias, interviewed in mobile, face gaunt, words halting. "I thought I was saving him. God forgive me. I was wrong." Howard paused the screen, breath caught. He said it. Eugene nodded, arm heavy around shoulders. Progress. Or PR. Doesn't matter. It's out. Fallout cascaded. Church schisms in Alabama, congregants splitting like fault lines. Elias resigned deaconship, whispers of depression circling. Howard's mother called, first contact post-verdict, voice quavering, "Your father's changing. Therapy. He wants to see you." The invitation hung, the thorn in joy. Christmas approached. They debated over mulled wine at a holiday market, lights twinkling like hesitant stars. "Go if you want," Eugene urged. "Closure's yours. I want you there. Always." Mobile shimmered under holiday frost. Magnolias dusted white. The family home loomed unchanged. Wraparound porch, Bible verses etched in welcome mats. Elias waited on the steps, older, shrunken, gray hair thinning, hands clasped like pennants. "Howard," voice rough, eyes wet. "Thank you for coming." Eugene hung back, respectful shadow. Inside, awkward tea in the living room. His mother hovering with pecan pie, small talk skimming ice. Then, Elias cleared throat. I watched the show. All of it. The things I did. Pause. Swallow. No excuse. Just sorry. Deep, bone sorry. Howard's chest tightened. Old wounds flexing. Why now? Lost you. Lost myself. Elias pulled a folder letters, yellowed, from Howard's youth. Kept these. Meant to burn him. Couldn't. Saw my fear. Not your sin. Tears pricked. Not absolution, but reckoning. It hurt. That. Still does. I know. Hand extended. Tentative. Howard took it. Grip brief but real. Eugene met his eyes from the doorway. Nod subtle. Proud. Dinner unfolded strained but thawing. Stories of grandchildren, cousins. Eugene's work praised haltingly. Departure brought hugs. Awkward, but arms around, not walls. Drive back to D.C. Snow flurrying. Howard exhaled. Not fixed, but lighter. Eugene squeezed thigh. That's the win. New Year dawned electric. They rang it in at a queer ballroom bash. Confetti raining, bodies swaying to house beats. Eugene pulled Howard close amid the throng. Whisper hot, "Marry me." Time stuttered. Here? Now? Whenever? But yes. Laughter bubbled. Kiss sealing it. Rings came later, simple titanium bands. Engraved H+E. Vents to vows. Spring bloomed betrayal anew. Insidious. At a policy summit in Atlanta, Howard networked. Eugene charming funders. Post-gala, buzzed on champagne. A colleague, Mark, sharp-suited from a rival org, cornered Howard in the hotel bar. Heard about your old man. Brave. But Eugene. Steady, Howard frowned, sipping water. What about him? Mark leaned in, voice oily. Just whispers. Past flings. Messy. Guy like you deserves solid. Dismissed as jealousy, but seeds planted. Back in D.C., doubts sprouted. Late nights at Eugene's office. Unexplained calls. Confrontation brewed over takeout tie. Air thick. Mark said shit. About your past. Eugene's fork paused. And you believe him? No. But. Talk to me. Sigh heavy. Before you. Yeah. Rebounds. Hurts. One guy X from the center days. Stalked after. Changed numbers. But echoes. Howard's gut twisted. Why hide? Didn't. Just. Didn't want to taint us. Eyes pleading. Trust me. Moments stretched. Teetering. Howard nodded. Pulling him close. Always. But no more ghosts. Thou held. But fracture lingered. Summer tour strained. Howard keynoting in L.A. Eugene in Chicago for trainings. Texts flew loving, but distance amplified insecurities. Then, the bomb. Anonymous email to Howard's work. Attachments, photos of Eugene with the ex. Timestamped recent. Motel exteriors. Heart plummeted. Call to Eugene. What the fuck? Datic. Then, not what swear. He cornered me last month. Post-session. I walked. These are doctored. Rage blinded. Liar. Hung up. World reeling. Confrontation exploded on his return. Airport pickup turned battlefield. Taxi idling. Proof's proof. Eugene's face crumpled. It's sabotage. Mark, he's the source. Jealous of our bill. Our light. Pieces clicked. Mark's bar whisper. Funding rivalries. Howard stormed the org's office next day. Demanded logs, emails traced to a burner, but patterns screamed Mark. Apology to Eugene came raw, on knees in their living room. I doubted. After everything. Forgiven. Eugene's arms enveloped. But it cuts. Healing meant therapy, couple sessions in a sunny office, unpacking vents and violations. Betrayal's our shadow, the counselor said. Name it, don't let it rule. They did. Date nights intentional, boundaries etched. Romance reignited fiercer, road trip to Shenandoah. Hiking trails where Eugene's tune first saved him. Picnic under leaves turning. Lovemaking by campfire. Stars witnesses. Fall brought wedding fever. Small ceremony in Birmingham's botanical gardens. Magnolias mocking old pains. 50 guests. Allies. Friends. His mother beaming. Elias in back row. Invited. Attending quiet. Vows exchanged under an arbor. Through vents and verdicts. I choose you. Kiss sealed. Cheers rose. Elias approached post-reception. Hand out. Beautiful. Both of you. Thanks, Dad. Howard's throat tight. Means something. Elias nodded. Eyes misty. Healing Sapeth. I'm walking. As dusk fell, Howard and Eugene drove west. Honeymoon in New Orleans. Jazz funerals for the dead past. Second lines dancing life. Canal Street pulsed. They waltzed in Preservation Hall. Sweat slick. Alive. But climax brewed distant. A class action suit ballooned from Howard's case. Targeting centers nationwide. Led plaintiff? Him. Depositions dragged. Dredging memories. One night, post-grueling, Eugene found him staring at walls. Can't, Howard admitted. The dark. Eugene knelt, hands cupping face. Then let me hold the light. Trial loomed in federal court. New York, winter 2012. Snow blanketed Manhattan, but heat built inside. Survivors testifying. Experts dismantling therapy myths. Howard's turn came day 3. Stand steady. Voice resonant. They didn't fix me. They forged me. For this. Defense hammered religious freedom. Parental rights. But jury diverse. Empathetic saw through. Verdict. Landmark. Millions in settlements. Bans reinforced. Outside. Press frenzy. Howard and Eugene. Hands clasped. Faced it. Justice isn't revenge, Howard said. It's repair. Elias called post-verdict. Saw it live. You're a force. Love you, son. Love you too. Words free. Finally. The landmark win catapulted Howard into icon status. His story fodder for TED Talks and op-eds. A beacon for the marginalized. Eugene and he navigated the glare, retreating to their DuPont nest when spotlights scorched. Life settled into rhythms profound. Adopting a rescue mutt named Vent. Lazy Sundays with the post and poached eggs. Whispers of family, surrogacy dreams sketched in journals. Yet fame's underbelly gnawed. Threats escalated. Mail laced with anthrax scares, false alarms, but chilling. Doxing on fringe sites. A brick through the center's window etched with slurs. Eugene's calm frayed. He'd pace nights, checking locks triple time. This light. It's blinding. Howard pulled him down. Heartbeat to heartbeat. We'll dim it. Together. Betrayal struck from within. A serpent in Eden. At a gala fundraiser, black ties. Crystal flutes. Mark resurfaced. Oil charm masking venom. Cornered in a coat room alcove. He hissed. Your fairy tale's cute. But Eugene's playing you. Ask about Philly. Doubt. That old fiend. Stirred. Later. Over Cabernet with donors. Howard probed casual. Ever miss the Rust Belt? Eugene's laugh light. Nah. Too cold. Why? Just. Mark mentioned. I sharpened. That snake again? He's poison. But seeds took root. A week later, anonymous package, USB drive, videos grainy, Eugene in a Philly dive, entangled with a stranger, date stamped during Howard's LA. Keynote. Audio faint. Moans, unmistakable. World grade. Confrontation at dawn. Drive in hand. Explain. Eugene blanched. Replaying. Jesus. That's edited. From years ago. Spliced. I was there for a conference solo night. Prius. But this? Manipulation. Proof says different. Howard's voice steel. Cracking. Please. Eugene reached. Recoiled. Believe us. Not them. Door slammed. Howard fled to a hotel. Potomac View anonymity. Phone silenced. Days blurred. Meetings mechanical. Nights scrolling old texts. Eugene's I love you s now suspect. Calls from allies. You okay? Lies. Fine. Eugene's persistence broke. Voicemails raw. I swear. On the vents. Then silence. Respectful space. Third night. Clarity pierced fog. Mark's grudge. Funding lost post-suit. Career torpedoed. Digging. Howard traced the drive's metadata. Philly timestamps mismatched. Digital fingerprints screaming forgery. Shame burned. Return was contrite. Key turning soft. Eugene on couch. Eyes red-rimmed. Vent at feet. I fucked up. Eugene rose. Arms open. We both did. Fear's the real enemy. Reconciliation scorched. Apologies in whispers. Bodies reaffirming trust. Slow. Sacred. Reclaiming stolen ground. Therapy doubled down. Unpacking betrayal's blueprint. Center scars making doubt a reflex. Vulnerabilities are strength, counselor affirmed. Lean in. Summer healed in motion. Cross-country drive. Route 66 dust in hair. Motels with neon glows. Stops at queer landmarks. Stonewall echoes in NYC detours. Black sand beaches in Big Sur where they skinny dipped. Laughing free. Eugene's hand on Howard's knee. Steady. This is us. Unbreakable. Back east. Family threads wove tighter. Elias visited D.C. Awkward brunch at their place. Vent warming to the old sinner with tail wags. Talks deepened. Elias's therapy journals shared. Admissions of repressed doubts from seminary days. Feared I'd burn too, he confessed over coffee. Howard's throat bobbed. You don't have to. Hug came hesitant. Then real father to son. No sermons between. His mother followed. Baking pies. Cooing over wedding albums. Handsome pair, she said. Eyes twinkling. Climax brewed in policy wars. A conservative backlash surged. Bills in red states shielding parental choice. Conversion camps rebranded faith-based wellness. Howard's org mobilized. But fatigue crept. Endless flights. Donor schmoozes. The grind of progress. Eugene noticed first. Howard's smiles thinning. Sleep fractured. Step back, he urged during a rare quiet night. Fire crackling. You're human, not hero. Can't. Kids like us deserve you whole. Kiss soft. Delegate. Live. Pivoted. Howard mentored juniors. Eugene spearheading grassroots. Space breathed life. Pottery classes. Eugene's lopsided mugs. Howard's precise bowls. Weekend hikes in Shenandoah, where rivers sang old tunes. Fall harvest brought news. surrogacy match. Emma, a teacher from Seattle, profile warm, wanting to help build families like hers lacked. Consults via Zoom turned tearful joys. Embryo transfer scheduled for spring. Excitement tempered caution. Eugene's hand on Howard's belly-flat stomach. Dreaming names, river for the vent's flow. Or Jasper, strong stone, but storm clouds gathered. Elias's health faltered. Prostate cancer, stage 2, chemo looming. Call came mid-November. Mother's voice frayed. He asks for you. Both. Flight south immediate. Hospital room sterile. Beeps underscoring frailty. Elias pale. Tubes snaking. But eyes bright. Boys. Weak smile. Glad you're here. Eugene squeezed Howard's hand. Anchor. Talks flowed halting. Regrets aired. Laughs at old sermons' absurdities. Preached hell. Elias chuckled hoarsely. Lived it chasing you away. Forgiven. That. Long time. Nights in mobile motel. Howard broke. Sobs for lost years. Eugene holding. It's okay to grieve. Chemo cycles blurred. They rotated visits. Work paused. Christmas in the hospital, tree twinkling on four-pole. Carols hummed off-key. Elias rallied brief, then dipped. Final days. Lucid. Proud. Son. Of your fight. Your love. Howard nodded. Tears hot. Rest easy. Elias passed at dawn. January frost etching windows. Funeral packed, church full. Eulogies mixed. Firebrand remembered, but whispers of change. Howard spoke last. He was flawed. Aren't we all? But he tried. That's human. Graveside. Arm around Eugene. Closure settled. Not perfect, but peace. Return north brought resolve. Surrogacy greenlit. Emma's pregnancy test positive. Heartbeat fluttering on ultrasound. Joy swelled. Tentative, nursery painted sage. Onesies folded. But betrayal's last gasp. Mark. Unhinged. Leaked forged docs claiming Howard's suit fraudulent. Stirring media mud. Scandal simmered. Hearings called. Climax in congressional oversight room. Lights harsh. Howard testified. Unflinching. This is desperation. From those fearing truth. Eugene in gallery. Gaze steel. Evidence mounted. Mark's hacks exposed. Arrest swift. Vindication quiet, but deep. Spring bloomed full. Emma's bump rounding. Their bond ironclad. Summer unfurled generous. Deceased cherry blossoms yielding to dogwood drifts. Howard and Eugene's world centered on Emma's visits. Ultrasounds shared over brunch. Kicks felt through taut skin. A miracle coaxed from beakers and hope. Names finalized. Theo. For the thespian dreams Howard shelved. Strong vowels echoing resilience. Nursery prep became ritual. Bookshelves groaning with Maurice Sendak and Audre Lorde. Mobile of paper cranes, Eugene's folds. Precise as his advocacy. Nights, they'd lie abed. Howard's palm on Eugene's chest. Pulse steady. Fatherhood, Howard mused. Scarier than any courtroom. Eugene's chuckle rumbled. Nah. We've faced worse. This, pure grace. Grace, indeed. Elias's will surprised. Bequest to Howard's org. Modest but pointed. For the paths I blocked. Letters followed. Penned pre-passing. Apologies layered. Pride peaking. One to Eugene. You saved my boy when I couldn't. Thank you. Tears came private. Healing's quiet work. Howard framed it. Hung beside their ring's engraving. Work balanced anew. Howard consulting part-time. Eugene directing youth programs. Their synergy legend. Couples hailed as the power duo dismantling closets. Retreats dotted calendars. Yoga in the Blue Ridge, where poses stretched scars supple. Beach weeks in Rehoboth. Waves washing doubts. Romance endured. Evolving. Anniversaries marked with jazz cruises on the Potomac. Slow dances under string lights. Intimacy stayed sacred. Explorations tender. Laughter laced. Bodies homes uninvaded. Still get lost in you? Eugene whispered post one such. Sheets tangled. Always home, Howard replied. Kiss ceiling. Autumn harvest coincided with Theo's arrival. Early, dramatic. NICU vigil in Seattle's glow. Emma strong, handing swaddled bundle. Dark fuzz, fists waving defiance. He's perfect, she beamed. Then to them, yours now. Flight home blurred joy tears. First night, rocking chair creaks. Theo's mules met with bottles and ballads. Sleepless but sublime. Eugene's lullabies. Shenandoah reborn. Howard's stories events turned victories. Parenthood reshaped. Diapers daisy-chained with deadlines. Playdates blending with protests. Allies cooed. Media softened. Profiles on family men fighting forward. But conflicts nipped. Theo's first fever spiking. Work crises clashing with colic. One midnight. Theo wailing. Howard frayed. Am I enough? After everything. Eugene, bleary-eyed, scooped both. More than. Look, he quiets for you. Dawn brought clarity. Enoughness in the trying. Betrayal's ghost flickered final. Old Center sued in their class action. Dr. Harlan deposed. Comb-over grayer. Eyes evasive. Cross-exam unearthed horrors. Falsified cures. Payoffs from churches. Verdict crushed. Dissolution. Reparations flowing. Howard watched remote. Theo on lap. Eugene's arm heavy. Closed, he breathed. Not closed. Transformed. Winter wove family tight. Holidays with his mother. Now doting grandma. Baking mishmashes of pecan and pierogi. Stories shared sanitized for tiny ears. But truths threaded. Your dads met in tough times. Love one. Theo's firsts piled magic. Crawl across rugs. Dada garbled but golden. Park romps where vent herded with joyful barks. Climax crested subtle. Profound. At Theo's baptism. Secular twist. Park pavilion under oaks. Guests circled. Queer kin. Straight allies. Ghosts honored in toasts. Howard spoke. Voice steady. We stand on broken ground, but build anyway. For him. For us. Eugene's vow followed. Through vents. Verdicts. And these little feet, I choose you. All of you. Rings renewed. Theo gurgling approval. Kiss amid cheers. Future vast. Years cascaded. Theo toddling to school. Howard's memoir inked. Vents of Valor. Bestseller bridging pain to power. Eugene's TEDx on resilience. Standing ovations. Family grew. Emma godmother. Visits west. Second child. Lila. By a same path. Curls wild as her brothers laugh. Elias's legacy redeemed quiet. Scholarship in his name for queer youth. Funded by the bequest. Howard visited grave yearly. Wildflowers laid. We made it. That. You helped. In the end. Old age crept graceful. Silver threading hair. Lines etching smiles. Retirement in Oregon Coast House. Waves crashing. Theo's engineering degree framed. Lila's art studio humming. Grandkids tumbled beaches. Stories sanitized to brave adventures. Final days. Bedside vigil reversed. Howard fading. Eugene steadfast. Children near. Loved well, Howard whispered. Hand clasped. Always. Eugene's kiss forehead soft. Passing gentle. Dawn lit. Eugene scattered ashes gulfward. Mobile to Pacific full circle. Eugene lived on. Theo's arm steady. Lila's hugs fierce. Journal entries chronicled. He reclaimed us all. In loving loud. Epilogue echoes. Vents now skylights in the coastal home. Light pouring free. Love, once whispered, roars eternal, human, flawed, unbroken.